Welcome back to the MyLatinLife podcast. Since 2014, MyLatinLife has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Adam. He's a Canadian guy currently living in Misiones, Argentina. He has a really interesting story. He's been developing properties in Misiones, and I think it's a very undiscovered corner of the world and certainly undiscovered corner of Argentina, other than maybe the Iguazu Falls. But Adam, welcome to the podcast.
How are you, buddy?
Doing good, man. Yeah, we had traded some DMs on X on Twitter, and
Right.
I'm just like, this is definitely going to be a funny story. Yeah, man, we're really happy to have you.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings because it's like a real undiscovered corner of the world, and I love that, and I don't really want that to change. But I guess at the same time, we talk about it a lot in the expat community, right? If you don't learn the language, there's certain corners that are just, it's not off limits. You can come here, you can do the tourist thing, but you're not going to be happy living in a place where nobody speaks English if you can't learn how to speak Spanish, right? So Misiones is a place like that. And I think that's why it's kind of undiscovered. It's kind of funny, though. You talk to other Argentinians, and they don't even know anything about Misiones. Everybody knows Iguazu Falls. They fly in, they get out, they see the falls for a day, and they leave. The rest of the province is pretty much undiscovered, and I think that's really the beauty of it.
So tell us about Misiones. Describe it. I know it. It's very... it's more tropical than people would expect. There's toucans, there's jaguars, but describe Misiones for us.
Right. So it's subtropical. So we do have 4 seasons. There is a winter, which obviously we're just coming out of now, but winter here is like a bad day is 15 degrees Celsius. Couldn't tell you what that is Fahrenheit, but it's not very cold. You can get some nights that in the night might touch 2 or 3 degrees, but that's like a really bad day and it's not normal. We'll have days in the middle of the winter that are 25, 26 degrees Celsius and sunny. I recently had friends here from Buenos Aires. They were all in the pool swimming, which to me was a little cold for that. But if you're used to Buenos Aires or like us and you're used to Canada, it's basically our winter is kind of like Canadian spring or summer, really, in some days, depending on the day. The joke in Misiones is we can have all 4 seasons in one day, and it's really the truth. I mean, you can wake up and it's 4 or 5 degrees, and then by midday it's like 20 something. So there's some wild swings in winter, but it's a really beautiful place. A lot of nature. I think what you find anywhere you go, right, is like people get a little nicer outside the big cities. So when I got to Buenos Aires, I thought people were really nice, even compared to Canadians who, we have that impression of being really nice people in the world. But I thought Argentinians were nicer. And then I got to Misiones and it's another level. Like I guess because you don't have millions of people living on top of each other, it's almost like they're excited and interested to see a new person. It's not like, get away from me, or like, in Buenos Aires, sometimes people are a little cold because of the insecurity, I think. And that doesn't exist here. Like there isn't any insecurity here. So people are just open and they're warm and they're friendly. And I think that's probably, apart from maybe the climate, my favorite part about living here.
Yeah, I guess speak to the safety a bit then.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're from Toronto as well, right? So we're coming from the same background. And I think that's always an important context, right? Because you could get someone who comes to Buenos Aires from Idaho and maybe they say like, oh, it's dangerous there. And like when I was in Buenos Aires, I didn't feel like it was dangerous. Now I understand if you're not careful, people will steal your cell phone 100%. But I don't think that the crime in Buenos Aires is as aggressive or as violent in major North American cities like Toronto, New York, Los Angeles. I don't even think it's close. Like the Argentinian people just don't have that culture. They're not super mean and aggressive. And that's actually pretty impressive when you think about everything that's happened here economically in the past, few decades. But yeah, so when you compare Misiones then to Buenos Aires, like it's a whole other level. Like there's just no, The city center would be Posadas, the capital. I think it's about 80,000 people, and it's still extremely calm. You can walk on the boardwalk. They've got like a riverfront all the way around that's really calm. I always look at in Latin America, you look at how people react when a motorcycle goes by, and you kind of know how is the security. Because in areas where there's problems with security, people are a little nervous about motorcycles because a lot of robberies happen that way. Here, kids walk to school on their own. You see them playing in the streets without their parents. Like, it's just that kind of like very family atmosphere. Especially where I am, I'm in a small pueblo, so everybody knows each other.
Yeah, what side are you on?
So
Because
I'm in the
there's kind of the
exact
Paraguay
center
side,
of the
there's the
province.
Brazil side.
Yeah. So this is the amazing thing about Misiones. In a couple hours, you can be in Brazil, you can be in Paraguay, or even a few minutes if you're on the border. I don't like border zones as far as living on the border of a country. I'm also like, I don't want to say I'm a doomsday prepper, but I'm not going to live in front of the water. Like, I love the beach. I'll do beach vacations, but I want to be at a little bit of altitude. And if you've ever lived at altitude, like a couple thousand meters, it's actually quite an adjustment. So like I've been in Costa Rica at real altitude, and it's a little bit hard, the living. And I think in Chile you'd have the same experience. But here we're 500 meters. So it's like you're high enough up that you get a fresh breeze in the summertime,
Mm.
but you're not so high up that it changes the air quality and you have to adjust to it. Like you wouldn't even notice it from an air perspective, apart from the fact that it's like very fresh. So, anyways, it's just unique in that I'm in the center. We're at 500 meters altitude. In 2 hours, you can be in Paraguay. In 3 hours, you can be in Brazil. And then, yeah, if you're on the borders, I mean, those people are, half an hour, 15 minutes from being in those countries.
Okay. So even in the middle of the province, you're pretty damn close to Brazil.
Yeah,
Do
because
you
it's
find
not
that
big.
Portuguese is very important in the day to day of the pueblos around there?
Yeah, so I mean, here the kids almost all learn Portuguese, and if they don't, I think now it's in school the way we learned French. They learn it as a second language. But also, we have to understand is because we're so close, their TV antennas growing up would have picked up Brazilian television, right? So
Yeah.
they grew up watching Brazilian cartoons, and so a lot of them learn Portuguese just naturally from that aspect. So there's
Mm.
definitely an aspect of Brazilian culture that is very much part of misionero culture, as we would say.
Yeah, there's a couple of things we haven't mentioned yet. One would be the Jesuit missionaries, and then another one would be obviously it's like the yerba mate capital of
Right.
Argentina.
Right. So the Jesuit thing's pretty cool. I've been to the site in San Ignacio. Um, I couldn't tell you the year of those structures, but it's not like what you see in Europe. Like I'm used to kind of like in Europe, you see these like 1,000 plus year old buildings. It's a different type of construction, but it's interesting. It's definitely some interesting history there. And then obviously Argentina, the culture of mate is very strong, and most of it comes from here or the neighboring provinces. Um, I think it's kind of interesting for me because everybody drinks mate all day long in Buenos Aires, but most of them have no idea like where it comes from or what the production's like. And I found that very eye-opening here because I got here and I'm like, oh, the majority of these places are spraying chemicals all over the plantations of yerba mate. And people have no idea about that. So that was like, I wasn't a big mate drinker when I got here. I kind of am now. I've just kind of culturally gotten into it with the friends and whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
we're all pretty conscious about like we buy it from our friends who have the plantations and who don't use chemicals because on the commercial
Mm.
level, I don't think people really realize that like more than the vegetables you're buying in the store, like it is a chemically treated product. And yeah, so sorry to be a downer on the Argentine culture, but
No, that makes
yeah.
sense. I mean, that's why it's probably worth it to opt for the organicos.
For me, especially if it's something you're doing every single day, like if you do it once in a while, it's one thing. But if you're every single day, all day drinking, like some Argentinians are, I think
Hmm.
there's maybe a lack of awareness about that kind of exposure.
Hmm. Yeah, when you're in Argentina or Paraguay, the mate section of the store is so big that, it's like 40 cents more for organic. It's like a no-brainer. When
Yeah,
you're abroad, obviously, a bit more limited selection, but
totally.
something to be aware of for sure.
Totally. Here they'll use the term agroecological. So that's like a level below organic certification, but generally those producers are not using chemicals and there is
Mm.
certification checks and balances. So like it's probably going to be cheaper than something certified organic, but you're still going to probably be okay chemical wise if that's something you care about.
Yeah. Another thing that strikes my attention in Misiones is the red soil.
Yeah, you kind of get that in a lot of tropical places where there's a lot of rainfall because what happens is when you have that much rainfall, it's actually kind of like taking the minerals out of the soil. So, like in Costa Rica, you get a similar soil. It's actually even more like orange.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a characteristic of Misiones. It definitely will stain your clothes and your vehicle. But apart from that, it actually is pretty good for growing. I mean, the yerba, the tea. I mean, everything that I eat is grown by local producers. So, like for farming, it's probably one of the better areas in the country. I think there's a lot of farming in the interior of Argentina that's kind of like grasslands and like wheat and soy. But here you get a lot of diversity because you can grow fruits. We have an amazing citrus season. You get a lot of the tropical fruits that you would get in like Costa Rica and those kind of places, a lot of mangoes, a lot of avocados. So that's another thing that, I mean, personally, I love about living here.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. Yeah, man. Go into detail more about just like setting the stage because it's such a big jump for people from say even Buenos Aires uh, to be in this type of environment that doesn't have paved roads and just
Yeah,
like
and I mean,
help paint the picture here.
so like I grew up in the city like you did in Toronto, and before moving here, I pretty much lived exclusively in cities. So it's different and it's an adjustment. And I think that what I've kind of discovered here that has really blown me away, like I lived in Buenos Aires and you get your organic food delivered. And if you need to go to a grocery store, you go to some jumbo store and it's got everything you need. And there's all the restaurants and all the amenities. And Misiones, especially where I am in the Pueblo, those things don't exist. There's no delivery from a grocery store. There is no big grocery store. It doesn't exist. And there's not a lot of restaurants. And I think for a lot of people, especially the expat types that are moving around, they're maybe eating at restaurants 4 or 5 times a week.
Mm,
Maybe that's a turnoff for them. For me, I've always loved cooking. And what's important to me is that I can get my hands on the real, raw, high quality ingredients that are local. Because I think when you really get into food, you start to learn that like the further the distance that food has to travel, the less quality you're getting. Usually, the more chemicals you're getting, that kind of
Mm.
stuff. So the thing that I love is, okay, we don't have the big grocery store, but I'm friends with the farmers who grow the food. I know their name. I know what kind of conscience they have. I know if they use chemicals or not. I know what the cow ate for breakfast. Like these things for a lot of people might not be important. For me, as someone who actually really loves food, I'll take that over a restaurant any day. I mean, a few weeks ago, I went to Paraguay and Brazil, like in one weekend. Like here, you just jump in the car and you can do those kind of trips in a weekend, no problem. I did
Mhm.
Paraguay, I did Encarnacion, Ciudad del Este, and Foz de Iguazu, Brazil. And I went to restaurants the entire time. I didn't do any cooking. And I was always looking for the best restaurants I could find because I mean, I'm not going to restaurants often, right? So, why not do the best? And honestly, I was, by the end of that trip, I was missing my food. Like, I wasn't getting anything in a high class Brazilian steakhouse or in a pizzeria in Paraguay that could even come close to the quality of food that I eat on a daily basis. So I think it's funny. I think you could make the argument of convenience, which obviously, when you're comparing a pueblo and a city, yes, we're not as convenient as Buenos Aires for sure. But when you talk about quality of life, I don't even think there's a question. Like you can take the best quality of things that you can buy in Buenos Aires,
Mm.
and you're not going to get the same. You're going to beat that quality with what you get here directly because you're getting it like the farmer cuts it out of the ground in the morning. They come to the market and you're eating it 2 hours later. Like that just doesn't happen in big cities, you know?
It's wild. So tell me about the real estate development and building a property. I'm sure lots of hilarious ups and downs. I guess, yeah, tell us about, you built like a single family home, basically.
Yeah, so I guess it sounds like you know a little something about construction by the way you
Dude, I
describe
know
it.
no,
But
I know nothing. I just know it's a nightmare.
it's crazy, and it's crazy everywhere. I've done it in Toronto. I've done it in Europe. I was looking at doing it in Costa Rica. So like, it's crazy everywhere. Anyone who tells you it's not doesn't know what they're doing. But what I was seeing here is like families from Buenos Aires that were sick and tired of the price increases, the insecurity, the noise, just the general city chaos of Buenos Aires. The people who got sick of that and wanted to move here, whether they were people who grew up here and moved there for work or people who had spent their whole lives there and were just, looking to retire, do something different, quieter, safer, cleaner. I saw a lot of those families coming here, and I think that the only missing piece was like you go to look for an apartment or a house and you don't really see like super high end, super nicely finished places. And I'm like, well, I know me personally, if I'm working really hard for 10 years in the city and then I want to go like relax or retire or work from home, which is, the big movement we're seeing now, I want to
Mhm.
do it in a place where I'm comfortable. I want to have some luxuries. I want to have a swimming pool and a jacuzzi and these kind of things. And so I've been in real estate my entire life, pretty much, more than a decade, anyways. And
Mhm.
so I just saw that as like these people are coming, expats are starting to come, less so than Argentinians, but these people are coming. They expect a different standard of living that, on the food side, I can teach them how to do it, but on the housing side, like there just wasn't an option. So I built a single family home. I built it with the idea that it could be for a single family. It could be for someone like myself who might live here permanently or who might live here 4 months of the year, 6 months of the year, 3 months of the year, as a lot of the guys in our community kind of do. They like to move around. And I
Mhm.
think Misiones as a part time base with its access to Paraguay and Brazil, it's pretty amazing. Like I don't know where there is in the world that gives you so much location flexibility, which personally I love. With everything going on in the world, like tomorrow something happens and you feel you want to be in a different country and 2 hours later you can be in two different countries. I mean, it's kind of a nice option to have, right? So I built it kind of with everyone in mind, like a single family home. um, I'm very like a permaculturist. So everything I do, I think about the integration of nature with how you live and how that makes a better quality of life.
Mm,
So I put in a swimming pool, but the idea of swimming in chlorine to me is insanity. And if you're trying to get out of the city and away from all the chemicals and the pollution in the city, why do you want to come to a beautiful place like this and swim in chlorine, right? So I made a pool that's filtered with plants. Um, that's pretty unique. Then I also thought about it as like if someone was going to be like us and live here 3 or 4 months of the year and then Airbnb it, it's set up so that like what do you want in an Airbnb? You probably want the pool, you want the jacuzzi, which we have in the master suite. You
mm,
probably want to have views. Everyone wants Instagrammable, so we've got views from sunrise to sunset. The
mm.
location is kind of the edge of the pueblo, so you could walk into the center and there are restaurants and all the amenities that you need, but you're on the edge. So your view is not of anything city. Your view is of, we don't call it a mountain because it's very small, but you can see Paraguay from here basically. So it's open. The view is over a natural reserve actually. So it's an
And
open
I don't know
view.
what it is, but the sunsets are crazy there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nature, I mean, like we don't have a lot of industry, we don't have a lot of pollution, we don't have a lot of light pollution, which in the city is really terrible. And you mix all that in, and you get some really amazing views, amazing sunset. I mean, for me, waking up and not hearing cars and chaos, I think that adds a lot to quality of life. I don't think you realize it when you live in the city, but now I've been here 2.5 years, let's say, and when I go to the city, I'll enjoy it for a weekend, and then I'm like, okay, now I want to go home. Like I miss the waking up to birds and sitting on the terrace at nighttime and not hearing, chaos. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of the basics of the location.
Yeah, I mean, even Asuncion, Paraguay has really spectacular sunsets. Everybody who visits comments on it. They're like, "Why are the sunsets so good?" It's like, you know, vibrant reds and purples, and it just lights up the sky. And it's not like I've been to rural Ontario or something, and it just doesn't. It
It's
doesn't like
not the
hit the
same.
same way. It's pretty wild. I don't know what it is, but there's like there's something happening.
Yeah, totally. And for me, like I'm looking at it every single night and I'm not bored of it. Like every night it's a little bit different. And I mean, especially in summer, I'm on the terrace all night long, all afternoon, and even in the morning. Like it's just I can't get enough of it personally.
Okay, so we're getting sidetracked from the real estate. I bet people are pretty curious. So the house is nice. I'm looking at images on Mercado Libre of it. It's really nice. Like it's really well done. Like the bath, like it's all new. The bathrooms are nice with the big glass and everything. So how much does it cost to build a house like this, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, so everyone wants to know that question. So for me to build this house, how do we calculate a year of my life? I don't know what the number on that calculation is, but like if you were to pay someone to do the job that I did, it would probably end up costing you the house more than what that house is on the market for, which is about 250,000 USD. So I don't know because most people can't do what I did. Like I have a lot of construction and real estate experience. So even though I wasn't even speaking Spanish at a high level when we started this project, I was just kind of willing to put myself out there and make it happen.
Mm.
But I wouldn't recommend any human being do what I did. It's very hard. It's hard to build anywhere, but you come to a place where you don't really understand the culture and the language. And now you're talking like a whole other level. So like you want to know the value and I can't really tell you because you would have to hire a project manager or, a turnkey builder and they charge a lot. So, I can't tell you what they would build it for. I think what I built it for and what it's selling for, which is, 250, I think that's a super attractive value when you look at what's available in Misiones because most people don't have like when you grow up in Toronto, you're used to like you said, the tiles in the bathroom, the big open plan. For me, Argentina, the culture revolves around the Parisha. So I wanted that space where like the garden and the swimming pool and the Parisha and the open plan kitchen, it all kind of melts together. And if you wanted to have a party with 50 people, like we had a couple of weeks ago, it's amazing. Like, and Argentinians are those kind of people, right? It's about gathering. It's about being with family. A lot of the families here are very big. I think they generally have more kids here maybe than Buenos Aires, probably because the cost of living is probably half of what it is in Buenos Aires. So like that's the culture here, right? It's all about big families getting together, enjoying the nature. Like we're eating outside 8 months of the year here, if not more, right? So I really wanted to like maximize that. I put giant windows everywhere to take advantage of the views, but also like I'm big into solar orientation. So yeah, you get a good view because of the way the house is situated, but the other thing you get is you don't get the sun blasting on the walls of the bedroom all day long, because when you're in a subtropical climate, if you don't have a proper orientation, you're going to be inside with the air conditioning on for the entire summer. And that's not really my idea of like a good, healthy lifestyle. And so I set it up so that you can be in this house and pretty much never use the air conditioning. I put one in for people who are, obsessive about needing air conditioning. But like the ventilation that this place gets, it's spectacular. Like you just open all the windows and you get the air from the mountain blowing right through the house. And it's really spectacular.
That's cool, man. What's it like, the interaction with the locals in the town?
Yeah, so I mean, probably starting out wasn't super easy for me because I came here from Buenos Aires with no Spanish. The thing about Buenos Aires, you make friends in English so easily, and here that's not a reality. I've met now over time people who speak English, but so it was difficult in the beginning just because I wasn't able to communicate, not because they're difficult. And now, I mean, it's fantastic. I have a great group of friends here. I would say people, like I said, are even nicer than in the city just because there's less people. It's almost like when you live in an area where you've got lots of space and privacy, when you see your neighbor or your friend, you're excited to see them. Whereas when you're in a big city, it's like you're so annoyed by your neighbors and the people that you have to see every day that like sometimes you just want to be in your apartment and like not see anyone. And here it's like they're excited to see you. Like they spend all day working in their farm, which is the number one industry here, and they're excited to talk to you. They're excited to hear about a different country. They're excited to hear about different perspectives. They're very open. Most of the communities here are European immigrants that settled from, let's say, Germany, Poland, Ukraine. We're talking like after World War II, when a lot of our grandparents would have come from Europe. A lot of them came here as well. So you get these like old-fashioned European type communities. For anyone who spent time in Europe, I think it's weird. Like you think about Argentina and you don't maybe think European if you don't know, but you come here and like you wouldn't know that you're not in a small town in Europe somewhere. Like it really feels that way. The culture is much that way. The way, like when I was in Italy, I loved the way that people, they prioritize food that comes from a farm nearby. And like that's the culture here, right? Like it's just normal. So I guess my enthusiasm for that kind of stuff made the transition easier. But in general, the people are they're super friendly, they're super open. So the more I became fluent and able to speak the language, the better it got.
And they must speak some Guarani there as well, right? There must be some
Yeah,
indigenous
not
communities,
really.
or
Like there's people who know how to speak Guarani. There are some Guarani communities as well.
mm,
It's not super common. You don't really hear people, speaking it on a day-to-day basis. But there are, especially the older generation,
mm.
that learn for sure.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Yeah, I think Misiones province does have a pretty big indigenous influence still. You
Yeah,
can
they have
go
very
and
large
visit.
reserves, and
They
it's
have,
actually
they have a lot of
quite
land,
nice,
yeah.
right? Because the Guarani don't develop their land in the way that most would do, right? Like they live off the land. They're very like hunter gatherer. They have community gardens. So like their community is very tight knit, and it's very focused around protecting the land, protecting the water. It's another thing about this zone that I don't think a lot of people know. Like I'm a bit obsessive when it comes to water. You know, you live in Buenos Aires and you don't want to drink the water coming out of the tap if you know anything about tap water. You go to the store, you buy bottled water, it's expensive, it's in a plastic bottle, it's got plastic chemicals in it. Then you buy a filter to filter out the plastic. It's kind of a disaster. So you come here and the water that comes out of the ground is like some of the freshest and purest water on earth. We have what's called the Guarani aquifer that is below Misiones and Paraguay. And it's, I think, the largest in the world, if not one of the largest. And you'll be driving around here and you'll literally see water coming out of the ground. Like we have freshwater ground springs all over the place. Like it's unbelievable. So like I have the option to get water. We have water like city water, which it doesn't have fluoride. It does have chlorine. It makes it a little easier to filter if you want to go that route. Then we have wells, which are like 100-meter deep community wells where you could go and get your water. And then I just like found, don't ask me how, wandering through the wilderness, freshwater ground springs, where like the best water you're ever going to have is just coming out of the ground. And you can just go there with like I take the big plastic jugs that you would buy water in the city, like the reusable ones, and I fill them up myself, and I've been drinking that water for 2 years, and like it's I when I have to go to the city, I get so annoyed that I have to drink city water because it's like even if you buy a bottled water, is nothing like it's not even comparable. Like it makes it hard to leave here when you get into this lifestyle. If you're into like purity and not consuming chemicals and all that kind of stuff, it makes it really hard to leave because you have it all here and you have it accessible in a way that like I haven't experienced that in any other place. I don't know if you've seen that on your travels anywhere.
Oh, that's a really good point regarding the water and certainly the food in general, like fruits and vegetables. I mean, if I transported you to like a Shoppers Drug Mart in Ontario and
Oh no, please don't do that.
you saw the oranges and like the little tangerines in the store for sale, and you're like, fuck, I have to eat this stuff. It's and
Yeah.
like the eggs from Shoppers Drug Mart.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh
like
my God.
literally, I get eggs from my friend who has the chickens. I know what they eat. I know how much hours a day they spend outside in the sun. I know what water they drink. You know what I mean? Like I think I'll die if I have to go back to Canada. Like I'll probably just try to do like a fast for a couple weeks and maybe just eat beef. I don't know. Like, that's the other thing. Obviously, Argentina is a huge meat country. I
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
the meat directly from the farmer. I know the cows' names. I make friends with them for 6 months before they become beef. That for me, like it's so special. I can't say enough about it. Like,
Oh man, living the dream.
yeah,
Um, I think one cool thing take away from this episode I'd like people to have is they might think that going out of the city in Argentina means you got to go to Mendoza in the wine country,
right.
or you got to go to Bariloche, and those are like your only two options. But there's this kind of third option, which is going northeast and going to Misiones and there's a couple, Entre Rios and all this stuff
Right.
where it's a really high quality of life, low cost of living, safe, food growing, water, everything you need. So people aren't really aware of this region. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people like. I'm glad we're doing this and people will hear about it. But like, if you ask people in Buenos Aires or you try to research on Google or Chat GPT, you're not going to get any idea of what it's actually like here. Like, you just got to buy a plane ticket, or if you got a car, jump in the car, just go and just experience it for yourself and know that like you're not going there to have what you have in Buenos Aires. It's different. Like, it's not the same, and that's why it's amazing and that's why it's special. And if you're used to the city and you're used to speaking English, it's going to be a bit of a shock. But for the people who can get over that part, who can learn the language and who like being around Argentine people and who care about food and water and homesteading and self-sufficiency, the stuff that I'm passionate about, you'll fall in love with this place real fast.
Dude, I'm going to have to bring you over the border to Paraguay and get you building houses for me in Paraguay.
I mean, honestly, I've been a few times. I don't feel the same way there. Like, the landscape is very different. Um, the landscape is very similar, but the people I think are very different. Like, it's not the same for me. I haven't spent a lot of time there. So I think you're going to have a lot of hard time getting me out of Misiones. Like, this is kind of my place now. Um, I love the people so much, and like, I'm so invested personally in the community that like I wouldn't even if I wasn't doing business here, if I wasn't building here, I wouldn't want to leave. Like, I don't want to leave the friends I've made. Like, I felt when I left Toronto after 31 years, I felt like the friends I had made were so superficial that interacting with them drained my energy. Like, I didn't even want to have the social life that I had there anymore. And now I'm like, I'm excited when I see my friends. I'm excited when we do an asado and it's somebody's birthday. And that's a very unique feeling that I wasn't getting back home and even in other places along my journey. So yeah, I mean, this community kind of has a bear hug on me, and I don't know if you're going to get me over there to Paraguay anytime soon.
Dude, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. We'll have to do a part two sometime, or we'll do another Argentina roundtable. We'll have you on that, something like that. But any last message that you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
Yeah, I think if your viewers are people like us, but they're still in Canada and they want to leave, but they don't have a clue how to do it, and they're sitting there and they're on the computer and they're asking expat groups and they're trying to figure it out, my advice would just be, just do it. Just sell everything. If you really know that you don't want to be there and you're just looking for a better life, it doesn't need to be Argentina. It doesn't need to be Misiones, but there's better options. There's different options, and you can do it. Like, most people don't realize, if they sold their house in Canada, they could pretty much retire in a part of the world like this. Like, maybe not in Buenos Aires. Like, you got to work a little more because it's more expensive. But like, literally, if you bought Casa Buenavista, we're talking about 250,000. You could rent it out at 50% occupancy Airbnb and make $50,000 a year, and then live it in the other 50% of the time. So like, you're more of the Brazil Paraguay guy with 50 grand a year. Do you live pretty good in Brazil and Paraguay?
For sure.
For sure, right? So that's just one simple example, and I'm not, just trying to pump my project, but it's like, that's one simple basic example. There's hundreds of others and in other locations as well. The point is, get up tomorrow, make the decision, sell everything you own, and the world is waiting for you. Like, there's so many cool places. There's places like this that you're never going to hear about on the internet, apart from your podcast, maybe. They're waiting for you, and the life that you really want, the fulfillment that you're missing, that empty hole that you might feel, that I felt when I lived there. there's an answer to it, and it's out there waiting for you. You just got to like take the leap.
That's it. All right, we got to wrap there. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today is Adam from Canada. I'll put a link to your X profile in the description to the episode. So if people want to reach out to you, it's casabuena_vista is the X account. And thanks for coming on again, man. Ciao for now, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast. Oh, and by the way, if you want to migrate to Argentina, you want to get residency, hit us up. Link in the description to book a call with us for relocation services. Ciao for now. See you guys in the next episode.